be attending the NFL draft. Uh, and I know for some people it may be a big deal that he's not attending. I know the NFL has definitely been reaching out to try and get him to attend, and you know they want the number one pick there. It's happened before where the number one pick has not been there, but for him being a quarterback and him being highly touted, and the Raiders are definitely going to pick him as number one so far as what we've seen. I don't think anything jarring's going to happen there, but he's not going to be there. How do you guys feel about him not participating or being there at the draft? I mean, usually when they pick the number one, number one goes up and boom, boom, there, fanfare, all that kind of stuff. I mean, what you guys take on that?
You go, Doc. We lost him. Did we lose
We
him?
lost out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look, we there have been many first overall picks, high projected picks that have not made gone to the draft. Of recent, Trevor Lawrence, Baker Mayfield, um, Miles Garrett, right? These guys, they number one overall picks. They didn't attend the draft,
Yeah.
so I don't think it's a big deal. I know Doc had a lot more input on this as it pertains to some of the personal reasons as to why he may not be attending. When he comes back, I'll leave it for him to kind of expound on that. But this isn't a big deal at all. Not
Yeah.
one bit. So I think any player, you have the right of refusal. It's not mandated for you to attend, nor should you be obligated to attend. It's not.
Yeah.
I don't. And for some players, depending on, and this isn't, this has nothing to do with Mendoza. Like, we all know that he's going to be the first overall pick,
Right.
but you got some players where it's kind of sketchy as to where they're going to be picked or if they will be picked in the first round altogether. And some of them, they just don't want to go through the anxiety and embarrassment to some degree of just having sitting there and waiting and possibly not being called on that first day, and they may elect to stay home. Again, well within their rights. But with Mendoza, yeah, yeah, there's no problems with it.
Mm.
So when I had first read it, I was kind of shocked, right? And then realizing, there've been other first round number one picks who didn't do it. But then I think even more so when you think about Mendoza, the boy is a bit more of a Boy Scout, so family probably comes first to him, maybe more so than some other guys who've been number one picks through the years, right? So I don't think he's big on the limelight and having to wear the suit and walking through the tunnel and you know standing in front of the mirror and all that kind of stuff. That's not his take. Plus, I think his mom has I think it's multiple sclerosis, but I think trying to also have the family in the green room and dealing with all of that, and I'm sure they're gonna be asking him about trying to talk to the mom or trying to talk to him about it, and just wants to be about the moment, enjoying it with his family, his mom, his dad, his brother, the rest of the family, aunties, uncles, and cousins, them. So yeah, it don't really surprise me that he would be the kind of guy to be like, yeah, I don't need it. I'm gonna actually spend it with family. So,
Yeah.
and to Lee's point, I don't think it's that he's worried about him dropping the 3 or the 5 or the 8. Wherever he's gonna get picked, he probably gets to do it with his family. He happens to be number one, but that's all that is.
Yeah. 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 That's a good point you guys make on that because, I forgot. I did see in the national championship his mom, did have something. I didn't know what it was, but I did see that, and it is difficult if you think about it. You don't want your mom, and you just don't want. We'll be home. We'll chill. We got family over. She's in an environment where she's comfortable, everybody's comfortable, family and all that. So yeah, it definitely makes sense. I think for definitely for him and his family. Um, let me ask you guys this as a follow up to this. What if and can the NFL do this? I guess the players union would have something to say about this, but what if the NFL decides we're gonna mandate this. We're gonna mandate that our top the guys that we invite to the draft that's going to be there in that draft room, you have to be there. You know what? Can the NFL do that? And what you think?
It'll be hard to mandate, right? And something for uh, people or persons who are not yet a part of your organization, right?
Yeah,
They're not
yeah,
professional NFL athletes yet, right? You are drafting them, and they haven't signed the contract. They're not under the rules and guidelines of the NFL at that juncture. So there's no way they can stipulate or mandate that they attend the draft.
yeah, yeah. Makes
You
sense.
you could try, but that just gets
That's
the
not gonna work.
UFL or the CFL a
Hmm.
chance to get better talent than they otherwise would. So it doesn't
Hmm.
benefit you short term or long term, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. All right. Makes sense. Makes sense. Um, I look. I'm tired of. I'm not just tired. I'm sick and tired. Literally sick and tired of hearing about AJ Brown. I don't want to hear about AJ Brown again. Look, AJ Brown is a very talented player. AJ Brown is, I think, 27 or 28. I think
He's
somewhere around there.
28.
28. Yeah, AJ Brown's 28. Look. How? Question: how long did Larry Fitzgerald play? What age was Larry Fitzgerald when he retired? Let me look this up.
he was up there
Yeah, he was in his like mid 30s, I
mid
believe,
30s, I think.
At least 35, I think, maybe
somewhere
35.
around there.
37.
Okay,
Yeah.
37. Okay, so
Yep.
yeah, so Larry Fitzgerald was up there. So okay, AJ Brown is, I would say, in his prime
Hmm.
as a receiver, and he I think AJ Brown has, if he's 28, I think AJ Brown has a good 3.5 years, a good 3.5 years to really be a top receiver, to still be a top receiver in this league, right? So if a team is looking for AJ Brown right now, right? And they are trying to get to the Super Bowl, by all means, grab you AJ Brown. You'll have him for a good 3 years because after that he's going to start dropping. It's going to be a drop off. Larry Fitzgerald, and some of those other receivers, Chris Carter, and some of those guys that played, long into their career. These guys are, they are anomalies, right? That Jerry Rice and these guys are anomalies, right? AJ Brown is a great receiver. I would put him as great, but right now he's not a Hall of Famer. Right now, um, I'm not too sure I like the attitude that AJ Brown has when it comes to when it comes to team, when it comes to the team aspect. I don't know if I'm feeling AJ Brown right now because look, you just won a Super Bowl, bro. You just won a Super Bowl. What else you want? What else you want? I mean, look, that's the pinnacle of it all. There's so many receivers out here that hadn't even sniffed the playoffs, but you got a Super Bowl. Come on, man. And you went to the Super Bowl 2 of the last 3 years. What are you talking about here? What are you talking about? So, I mean, I don't know. I'm tired. I'm tired of the AJ Brown talk. I know we'll get into. I got some other stuff that I want to share after. I want to hear what you guys got on this AJ Brown situation. But I'm just at this point. I'm stepping back, man.
I mean, I think you answered the question yourself, Links, in terms of what the problem is, right? So you got AJ Brown. He's in his prime. Okay. Um, he has maybe 2 more years of peak performance left in him. Maybe three. It could stretch it to three if he
Yeah, yeah,
stays healthy.
yeah,
And from our accounts, and from your account, right? And I do agree with you. He's not even sniffing Hall of Fame consideration, right? Um, he has the team accolades. He's been to 2 Super Bowls, won one. Um, but I think from a personal level, okay, he feels like he's been vastly underutilized, which I think no arguments there. And
Yeah.
at some point, I think he's gotten to this place where it's like, I need to look out for my legacy. What is my legacy going to be in this game? And if I stay with this team, particularly with this coaching staff, all of these years, my best years are going to be wasted. Okay, so it would be frustrating. It would be frustrating for anyone to be that talented, to have all of those, you know, like tools in your toolkit, to be able to do all the things that he can do and not have the means to be able to showcase it. Now, there's some accountability that's going to need to be vetted here as well for on AJ Brown's part, where you did have certain games particularly last season where they tried to get him the ball, he dropped, and he had like considerable drops. I think particularly against the 49ers in that playoff game.
49ers, I mean, yeah.
Okay, so there's no excuse there. So you do have examples where it's like, bro, you're kind of contributing to this, you know, to your own demise when it comes to your personal accolades. But large in part to all of this, I think he's looking at the scheme. He's looking at the brain trust that's involved in getting the ball and distributed to the right players at the right time in the right situations. And he doesn't seem to be a believer in what they're capable of. I want to draw just a slight comparison here because you have something I think that was kind of similar to this. Not too much, but I think there's some synergy there in terms of the comparisons with Mike Evans in Tampa Bay. One would ask, like, why are you leaving Tampa Bay? You've been there all these years. You're an icon in that city. You're like you're gonna be whatever ring of honor they have. That his number's gonna be up there. And then he decides he wants to go to the 49ers. And from his own mouth, he's like, look, I feel like they can, you know, basically help me get to another level. They can utilize me in ways where I can be more effective on the field. He trusts Kyle Shanahan. He doesn't trust, again, the brain trust that's there with the Tampa Bay Bucks. I think it's the same thing with AJ Brown. It's just that AJ Brown is still under contract.
Yeah.
That's a good point. No, when you think of when I think of receivers, I think of like two types. I think of like the athletic specimens, right? The DK Metcalfs, the Dez Bryants, and then I think of like the technicians, the guys who run precision routes. Those are the ones who tend to play to like their mid 30s. The athletic freaks, when they hit that wall hard, because they don't have
That's a
the
good point.
setting people up and you know coming out of the breaks and using being crafty to get open when the athleticism goes away. So that 3 years is, yeah. If he's lucky, he got 3 years because he's probably going to be out of the league in 5, right? So he's trying to make the most, not just money, but legacy records, and Philly isn't doing that for him. They could. I think the quarterback could, but somewhere between the quarterback, the OCs, and the head coach, they ain't using him like he feels like he should. And those folks be like, yeah, they're underutilizing him. So he's in the most one of the more politically correct ways, making it very apparent he wants something different. Now he's
Yeah.
now he draws attention to himself, not drawing attention to himself. Oh, AJ Brown's quiet this week. What does that mean, right? But all in all, clearly he's like, yeah, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, and I already got so many more games in me where I can be a dominant force. So let me go do it someplace else. Now,
Yeah.
where that someplace else could be is the question, and my understanding is a former head coach of his didn't say anything to the negative when they were asked about him going up and playing in New England. So I wouldn't be shocked if they tried to give Drake May a veteran quarterback with a head coach who's familiar with AJ Brown from the previous stint in Tennessee. But we'll see how things play out either going into the draft And if nothing shakes out during the draft, what happens, June 1st, June 2nd? So,
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think Doc, if he ends up anywhere, it will be New England. However, New England has to you got to come with something. And if you're not coming with anything, then unfortunately, he probably gonna end up on the Browns, or he gonna end up
the
he
Bears?
gonna end up in the AFC, but he is going to, because I've heard rumblings with Miles Garrett and the Eagles and AJ Brown, and we know New England wants him, but you got to give up a first, a second, and a player or something to that magnitude, and because at the beginning, I think, and this is what I heard, you know, AJ Brown, the Eagles really didn't want to get him, so they were asking two number ones for him, right? I don't think that's the case now. I think the Eagles made some moves. They cleared up some cap space, and they're like, okay, we're getting ready because AJ isn't talking. His agent is talking, putting feelers out there. AJ's not saying anything. So what that's telling me is AJ is kind of fed up and like, okay, I'm just ready to go. Just find some way to get me out of here. And he would like to go to New England because he had a list of teams where he wanted to go. He would like to go to New England, and look, I would want him to go to New England so he could be happy and do what he got to do. You're not gonna win a Super Bowl. You're not gonna win a Super Bowl. This was the window. This was the window for Drake May. You're not gonna win a Super Bowl in New England. I'm telling you, Patrick Mahomes coming back. You got the Houston Texans. It's not going to happen. And so go ahead and go to New England. Be happy, enjoy yourself, and and retire in 3 years when you don't make the Super Bowl. Because he never gonna sniff the Super Bowl again. I promise you that when he go to the AFC, and that's really what the Eagles want. If you leave, we're not setting you up for success. We're gonna set you up so you can be happy, but you are not gonna sniff another Super Bowl. So yeah, I mean, hey, it is what it is. With AJ, at this point, what I feel really, you know, would it hurt my feelings if AJ Brown leaves the Eagles? I mean, I think I'll have like a 30-second blip if AJ Brown leaves the Eagles. Um, because I do know you don't want disgruntled players there. You just it's not gonna be good for anybody. If I was AJ, I would say, let me at least see what Sean Mannion's gonna bring. Let me talk to him. Let me give him a call and say, hey Sean, what you got? How you featuring me? What's the deal? What we gonna do here? And Sean will say, hey man, blah blah blah. This is what we're gonna do. And then you say, okay, agent, we can ride this out for a year. Let's see what Sean Mannion gonna do. And then if nothing happened, if this the same, I'm out of here. All right, that's what I would have done if I was AJ. But he wants to be gone now. Seems like that's what it seems like. So I think he will be a June 1, June 2 move, because that cap hit is just going to be still too big. It's going to be a $40 million cap hit when you look at it pre-June 1. So how he was trying to move some stuff around to clear that up, which he has done, but we still don't want to lose any money on AJ. So you're gonna have to, if a team wants him, you're gonna have to wait until after June 1, and by that time, OTAs have already started. You got some things going on, as far as the team. So that's gonna be interesting because I want to see if he's gonna show up to anything the Eagles are doing. If he does not, that's gonna tip your hand right there. If he does not,
He,
that tips your hand to he doesn't want to be here, and then we know it's going to be post June 1 cut.
well, I don't see him missing any off-season activities. I mean, he's under contract. This isn't a situation where he's holding out or has any legitimate reason to hold out. So I think he's going to show up. I think all in all, right? Take Lynx as an Eagle fan. I know you're right. Take the emotion out of it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
One, AJ Brown has conducted himself, I think, in a way where I think he's not really been a team disruptor, right? He's not saying things or like you saw the polar opposite of this 20 years ago.
Tio,
Okay.
yeah,
Tio,
yeah,
right. You saw you seen that, right? You
yeah,
lived
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So we know what
yeah.
we know what that looks like. He is anything but that. This is the
Right,
antithesis of that, right?
right, right,
So
right.
he's staying to himself, he's staying quiet. All of these grumblings, this is being surfaced through pundits and reporters who say we got inside sources and they're saying that AJ Brown isn't happy, but AJ Brown isn't saying any of this out in open, right?
Right,
This is just
right.
speculation. And this is where I think if we're really being true, like honest about this whole situation, right? This is a problem that's been manifested through the lack of leadership shown by the coaching staff. Nick Sirianni to be more specific, right? Because
Yeah,
when you got a coaching staff like this that has created an environment where you can see that there's no synergy, you can see that there's a lack of cohesiveness on and off the field,
yeah.
okay? To where people are now having to speculate that AJ Brown doesn't want to be there. AJ Brown never said this. We have not heard him say this.
No, I haven't said.
We're all speculating it based off of just how bad the ecosystem and the environment is on that team because the leadership is poor. The coaching
Yeah,
leadership. I'm not talking about the GM. I'm not talking about the owner. Specifically,
yeah,
the coaching leadership is just putrid. And
yeah.
so I think this is manifested from that. And that's where the blame should be pointed, not necessarily at AJ Brown, who, again, he isn't doing anything wrong. He isn't
Right.
saying anything negative. He isn't going out of his way to voice, oh, I don't want to be here. All speculation right now.
Yeah, yeah. It's speculation for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see over the next couple of weeks how this play out, man. It's going to be. I would like to see. I would like to see how it's going to play out. But yeah, you're right. AJ Brown has not said anything at all. So, um, you know, it's everybody trying to break the story, trying to break the story. Um, all right, I got a couple hypotheticals for y'all, man. I want to see what y'all opinions are on these hypotheticals. So the first one is okay. Patrick Mahomes, we know the quarterback. You know, I think the best quarterback in the NFL right now. I think one of the guys that's really, looking at, you know, that Brady left this trail, and you're looking at the next level of quarterbacks, and Patrick Mahomes is right there, and so this is what I want to ask you guys: if Patrick Mahomes did not have Andy Reid calling the plays and Andy's system, would Patrick Mahomes be Patrick Mahomes? If any other, if say, let's say he was in Dallas, or let's say he was in Baltimore without Andy Reid. Let's just leave it there for now. Then, without Andy Reid, is Patrick Mahomes Patrick Mahomes?
No. Patrick Mahomes is an above average to top five quarterback in the league, but he is not Patrick Mahomes. He is Justin Herbert.
Mm,
He is a quarterback who makes great plays, but it depends on the team he's on and how much talent and lack
right,
thereof there
right,
is.
right,
But he is a very talented quarterback who benefits from having a coach who, for whatever reason, for the last like 30 years, defenses have a hard time stopping his passing attack. And every quarterback, from Donovan McNabb to Corey Detmer to I think what Nick Foles to
Nick Foles,
an
Carson Wentz,
aging, not aged, but aging Michael Vick, who
yeah,
what would have happened if Michael Vick was there like 4 years, 5 years before. But
yeah, yeah,
so every quarterback looks good with Andy Reid, and so I, he is clearly Patrick Mahomes is clearly the best quarterback Andy Reid has had, right? But Andy
absolutely,
Reid's never had a bad quarterback playing football for him. So there is some benefit that Patrick Mahomes gets to being in Andy Reid's system. And so I think he'd be a some top 10 or top five quarterback, still making some amazing throws, some ridiculous plays, highlight film quarterback. but I'm not sure he'd be the, you know, arguably top 10 quarterback already at this stage of his career
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
people put him at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna say yes. He would probably be very close to what he is now, and the only reason I'm saying that is because of what played out in the draft. Okay, that was the 2017 draft that he was drafted in. You had Kansas City; they jumped from 27 to 10
Yeah.
to pick him up. The question is, why did they jump to 10? Why did they jump all the way to 10 to get him? Right? And the way the story goes, and the way it's been reported, is that it's because the team that was sitting at 11, they had a coach who was high on him and he really wanted him. And that coach was Sean Payton, right? The Saints were sitting there at 11 and Sean Payton was ready to pick Patrick Mahomes at the 11th spot. Kansas City Cup winner that they jumped up in front of him, they got him. Rest is history. But I think if he had landed with Peyton, understanding his skill set is different than Breeze, I get that. But Peyton wanted him for a reason, and I think Peyton would have game planned and accentuated, using his strengths to bolster that offense and probably take that offense in another trajectory and probably do something kind of similar to what Andy Reid is doing in terms of making sure that he game planned to the strengths of Patrick Mahomes. And we all know Sean Payton is a good game planner on the offensive side. So if that was the case, I mean, we could have possibly been looking at Patrick Mahomes with the New Orleans Saints for all these years and with Sean Payton. And I think he probably would have had, at minimum, at least a really good statistical career with him.
So would Patrick? So are you saying Patrick Mahomes would have been Joe Burrow?
Where you get that from? What do you mean?
And I'm
Oh, I see what
comparing
you're
that
saying. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, because I think even though he has had his fair share of I think he had two major injuries, Patrick Mahomes, right? But for the most part, he's definitely been on the field and been upright much more consistently than Joe Burrow has in his career. Joe Burrow's always getting nicked up and dinged up and hurt. But yeah, I see what you're saying in terms of the type of the output, right? Joe
Right,
Burrow did
right.
go to a Super Bowl,
He
right?
did go to Super
I
Bowl, yes.
I think with Sean Payton, he would have made it to at least one Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Quite possibly two, but definitely one. But I think his career output would be even better than that of Joe Burrow right now.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah. That's it. That's go ahead, Doc.
No man, when Lee went out on the limb, I was like, what this man doing, right? And then he pulled the Sean Payton. That's like, son of a, why you gonna pull the Sean Payton comparison, right? I was like, man, how do I come back on this? How do I come back on this? And the only saving grace is, I agree with you. The ceiling of Patrick Mahomes with Sean Payton is probably close to, if not as high as with Andy Reid. Like that's just one of the few guys where like
Right.
he gets a quarterback and can do stuff. Thankfully, the floor is much lower because of the 1 year Sean Payton had with Russell Wilson. So that's the only saving grace. But that's not the question. The question is not that. The question is how high would Patrick Mahomes be, right?
Right.
And I do
Right.
think with a Sean Payton, with a Sean McVay, with a Kyle Shanahan, he'd probably be pretty close to the Andy Reid. It's just if he ends up with Stefanski's, if he ends up with, you know,
Nick
back in the day, Jim
Sirianni.
Fox, or more so, oh, your boy with the previous coach with the Giants, right? If he ends up with a Sirianni, I don't think he's going to be Patrick Mahomes.
I feel
But
bad
Sean
for him
Payton
if
was
he
a good
ends
pull.
up with
Sean Payton was
Sirianni.
a good pull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean that the Russell Wilson comparison there, that is a Russell Wilson who was past his prime by the time he
Yeah,
got
I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
got to Sean Payton. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Let's
but
stick with
that,
let's
that
stick
was
with
a
the
good pull.
yeah. Let's stick with the quarterbacks. Uh, let's do a swap. Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys. Let's do a swap. Lamar is in Dallas, and Dak is in Baltimore. Is Lamar has Lamar already won a Super Bowl or have gotten to a Super Bowl? Um, did Dak get to a Super Bowl in Baltimore? Um, what you guys think on that?
I'm gonna be real quick on this. Unless you swap in owners too, right? He ain't winning no Super Bowl in Dallas. Lamar will not win a Super Bowl. No quarterback is winning a Super Bowl in Dallas as long as Jerry Jones is the owner. I'll leave
That's
it at that.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Now
Yeah.
Dak with Baltimore um, under John Harbaugh, and if Dak has I think he could possibly still have the similar growth at the position that he exhibited with Dallas, probably even more so with that team, with that defense. When who was the defensive coordinator? McDonald, who's now the offense, who's now the
Yep.
head coach
No.
of Seattle.
Yep.
I would say, and I know I'm gonna get eviscerated for this, right? But I would say Dak would probably be able to get that team to a Super Bowl.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
We both may get it because I agree with you. You
Yeah.
could put Lamar and all his running ability and playmaking ability in Dallas, but that defense, man,
Mhm.
that defense, yeah, and realize that the team from the ownership down ain't trying to win, they're trying to make money and stay relevant. So he'd always be relevant.
Yeah.
10-7, 11-6, 9-8 in a bad year, but I don't think they're sniffing a Super Bowl. And uh, I think Dak is an underrated quarterback. Not that he's an amazing quarterback, top five, but top 10 quarterback. You put him with a team. Now you're running a bit more of a traditional offense because he can move. He's just not the athlete that Lamar Jackson
Right.
is.
Right.
But more traditional offense, they're going to run the ball a little bit more. He fits more so having the Derrick Henry on your offense than Lamar does. With a good defense, great defense coordinator in McDonald, yeah, I think there's a chance he at least gets to the NFC Championship game.
Right.
Sorry, AFC Championship game, probably gets to a Super Bowl. I'm not saying he's going to win, but I think he touches Super Bowl more with the swap than Lamar does. So
Yeah.
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 And
Take.
I'm not trying to say by no stretch of the imagination am I trying to say that Dak is a better quarterback than Lamar.
Right.
I'm not
Right.
saying that.
Yeah.
But we like there's a there's a I don't know, there's a rhythm to the way the quarterback position is played where if there's the right synergy um happening within that time or within for however that team has been constructed, it could lead to a better output. Okay. Um, let me, let me take that back. Because I don't, if Lamar couldn't get them to a Super Bowl, I can't, in good faith, say that Dak could go there and do the same thing.
Mm, yeah.
You know, um, not same thing, but that he can do better than what Lamar did. So let me take
Right.
that back. I think that that's a little bit disingenuous. I don't think that Dak could get them to a Super Bowl, but I don't think the Ravens would be a bad team with Dak. I
Right.
think they would be a playoff team, um, probably kind of scratching the surface, trying to get to that Super Bowl, maybe losing in the AFC Championship game, similar to what Lamar's been doing, but I don't think he would do any better than what Lamar has done. Now, going back to Lamar being in Dallas, that hasn't changed. That Dallas is not going to
It's
Super Bowl
not.
with Lamar Jackson,
Yeah. Yeah.
as long because not because of Lamar, but
Right.
because Jerry Jones is the owner, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
people will ask, well, why is that? Because Jerry Jones he does not invest in good coaching. He
Yeah.
does not pay coaches. He does not
No.
bring in superior coaching. So that would be an inhibiting factor on Lamar Jackson. One would probably even say that Lamar Jackson would not be able to reach his full potential
in Dallas.
like he
True.
did in Baltimore if he had started with Dallas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He doesn't win MVP in Dallas, Lamar.
Mm-mm.
And then I'll tell you this also, Dak, just take the ball out of Dak's hand in the playoffs. Dak could have the ball all regular season. Regular season, Dak could throw it over the yard. But when he get in the playoffs, if he was on Baltimore, it's the Derrick Henry show. This is the only way Dak would get to a Super Bowl, by taking the ball out of his hand in pressure situations. He
But
can't. He's not a Matthew Stafford where Matthew is like, give me the ball, we going down and we're gonna score. That's not Dak. Dak got to be up by 2 touchdowns and feel comfortable and feel good, or no pressure, no playoff pressure, none of that stuff. And then you have Derrick Henry in the backfield and take the ball out of Dak's hand. All Dak would have to do to get to a Super Bowl is turn around and hand it off to Derrick Henry, because I don't trust Dak in pressure situations. I don't care if he was on Baltimore. I don't care where he is. I think Dak is the type of quarterback. Don't get me wrong. And look, this NFC East. Don't get me wrong. Dak is a good quarterback. Dak is a good quarterback, but I think his hurdle, Dallas, wherever it is, regardless, you're not going to win in Dallas because of Jerry. I agree there. But regardless, Dak is not a high pressure quarterback. He is not one of those guys that can play under pressure. But guess who can? But still, Jalen Hurts can play under pressure. Jalen Hurts can play under pressure. I'm telling you, no, seriously, Jalen Hurts can play under
I don't know
pressure.
where this is coming from, but I mean, it is it is a
Look,
fact. Yeah,
it's
that
true.
is true.
Jalen Hurts can play under pressure, but that doesn't mean he's a better statistical quarterback than Dak Prescott. He can just play under pressure, and he seems to turn it on when the pressure is on. He feeds off of that negativity. He feeds off of that, and he doesn't feel the fear in that moment. He's not afraid to lose. Dak is more afraid to lose, and Dak is going to make mistakes because he's afraid to lose. And that's why I think Dak wouldn't. You just, if Dak was in Baltimore, turn around, hand it off to Derrick Henry, 40 times, 45 times, and let Derrick take you out to the Super Bowl.
but that's the reason Dak might actually make it to a Super Bowl in Baltimore versus in Dallas.
I can see that.
Dak is not drop back 45 times a game kind of quarterback, but
No.
he's the type of dude who can lead a team to victory. He'll scramble if he needs to. He at least coming into the league, he was very conservative. And Dallas was winning a whole bunch of games they lost the previous season because he was super conservative, wasn't turning the ball over. You have the Mike McDonald defense, you actually got a chance because they would actually realize, and Dak would realize, let me turn around and hand the ball to Derrick Henry. So your point is the very reason why he actually would have a chance.
Yeah.
The last 15 years in Dallas, they got Dak dropping back like he's Peyton Manning, and before that, they had Tony Romo dropping back like he was Peyton Manning.
Right.
With inferior defenses and usually not a good running game. When they finally got a good running game and a good defense, Romo was getting hurt, and they missed the window with Dak Prescott. They keep on dropping these dudes back, having them throw 50 times a game when that's not their skill set, but it looks good for TV.
Right.
It
Yeah.
keeps the fans engaged. So let's do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so Lamar comes to Dallas. They dropping Lamar back 45, 50 times a game. Run, Lamar, run. Do what you got to do. And that's not winning football. It's entertaining football,
Right.
but it's not winning football.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that's the problem. So
And okay, and check this out. And why would Lamar? Okay, why would we say Dak would win a Super Bowl, but Lamar has not won a Super Bowl in Baltimore? And Lamar has not won a Super Bowl in Baltimore, even with Derrick Henry back there. It's because of his freakish athletic ability. Because he has this athletic ability where he can break off these runs. He can run just like Derrick Henry, right? He could take off and he could be that dual threat. but now he wants to stay in back in the pocket, and he can do it. He has that. He has the ability to do that. Um, but and it hasn't all fall on Lamar's shoulders. It just has not. It just the ball has just not tipped in his favor when it comes to playing against teams like Kansas City
And Buffalo.
and Buffalo. It just hadn't tipped in his favor. And look, at the end of the last season, was it this season where the tight end dropped the ball?
That was 2 seasons ago.
Two seasons
Okay,
ago.
yeah.
Seasons
So
ago.
look
So,
at it. He was there, and he could have done it, but again, it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. It just didn't bounce his way.
yeah, his team, his supporting cast has let him down a couple of seasons, right? And I mean, and he did have a fumble or like some turnovers in those games as well.
Yeah,
But he did put the team in position to win. And guys, they didn't kind of, they didn't follow through. They didn't come through for him.
yeah.
So you do have that. But I think I don't know. That's a strange one to call out links, like to compare those two quarterbacks and switch places like that. Um, I still don't think Dak would make it to a Super Bowl, but I don't think he would do any less than what Lamar Jackson has done performative wise in terms of wins and losses.
Yeah, I got you. I
Yeah.
got you. All right, last one for you guys. Would Justin Fields have been a top 5 quarterback in the NFL had he been drafted by San Francisco instead of the Chicago Bears? Um, I tell you guys this all the time. I've watched Justin Fields since he was in high school, and the dude was balling. Okay, when he was backing up Jake Fromm in Georgia for that 1 year, I think if Kirby Smart would have put sit Jake Fromm on the bench, which was a system quarterback for the
Hmm.
Georgia system, and you put Justin Fields in that offense, it would have activated that offense like immediately. That's just me. Hey, look, Kirby Smart is smarter than me. I don't. He's the coach. This is just my hypothetical. I think if you put Justin Fields in there, I think there was some other things going on behind the scenes, some political things, et cetera, why he didn't play, and Jake Fromm was in there anyway. But I've seen Justin Fields. I just think the kid he just happened to be in the wrong system. Don't Wrong systems don't have a quarterbacks coach that really can really work with his strengths and accentuate the strengths that he has. And he just hadn't had a good team. I mean, Chicago, you in Chicago, you in Pittsburgh, um, and then you with the Jets. What, ain't nothing happening, man. But if he was in San Francisco with that Shanahan offense, if Purdy is looking good, I think Justin Fields would have been balling out of control there in San Francisco because I think Shanahan would have set him up pretty good. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. Shanahan's offense. Shanahan does not scheme around the strength of his quarterback. He has to find a quarterback that can fit his scheme. Okay. Don't forget, Trey Lance was supposed to be the guy.
Yeah,
And Trey Lance's skill set is apples to apples with Fields, right? From an athletic perspective. I
right.
know different colleges, and Fields had a really stellar career with Ohio State. I think Lance was what North Dakota, something like that.
North Dakota State. Yeah.
Not a lot of snaps, right? But the thing is with Fields, I think we've seen. Look, we've seen enough tape now in the pros with Fields. He's been in multiple systems now, right? From you know the Bears to the Steelers to now the Jets. And he's juggled multiple playbooks, and he still seems to be uncomfortable when he's taking snaps from under center, right? When he's play action calling these plays, he just doesn't look comfortable. Putting him in that Shanahan offense, which is one of the most complex offenses in the league, There's no he one. I don't think he even starts year one
Mm.
because he's gonna have to learn that offense. That offense is very difficult, right? And then two, even if he does get it, let's say they still go ahead and draft Purdy, a couple of years later, Purdy's gonna supplant him because Purdy came from a system that was already similar to Shanahan, and his skill sets and the way that he plays the position, right? It pure synergy. That's why he was able to be as effective as he was going into that system. So yeah, I don't think Fields would be that great just because he went to the 49ers. I think if he had gone to a team like, let's say, Baltimore with John Harbaugh, then I think you could see him, with a more of an upward trajectory in his career, becoming something more than what we've seen now. Because Harbaugh, similar to what he did with Lamar, he would have kind of eased him into the position, allow him to play to his strengths, running the ball, you know, carving out plays for him to do these bootlegs and these scrambles and whatnot until he gets comfortable actually playing quarterback, and then end up being able to master the passing aspect of the position. But not Shanahan. One, Shanahan doesn't have the patience for it either. If you can't come in, if you can't do it, you get Trey Lance, you out. Okay, so yeah, I don't think that would work for him with the 49ers.
I echo almost everything Levana said. Not with San Francisco, not with the way they run the offense. Unfortunately, most coaches in the league, they coach their way, and it's up to the GM to get the players that fit that style or that system.
Yeah.
And they don't want to, or they don't have the ability to coach various styles. Right? You got the sushi chef, and they end up in Texas, and it's like all we have is cow. They still trying to serve raw meat. They ain't doing no burgers and steak. I think there's three head coaches in the league that could have taken Justin Fields and made Justin Fields probably a top 10 quarterback. Two of them got the same last name, Harbaugh and Andy Reid. Just because we've seen different types of quarterback have success. The Michael Vicks, the Nick Foles, the Alex Smiths, they all have had different styles, different strengths and weaknesses, and all have had success with Andy Reid. But I think outside of Andy Reid or a head coach named Harbaugh, I don't think Justin Fields, because most of the league doesn't know what to do with Justin Fields, aka he runs for 1,000 yards, and then next season they tell him stay in the pocket in Chicago. So
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah. You mentioned a Harbaugh, and I'm just gonna pull this out the hat real quick. Okay, would you say Justin Fields has similar traits to Colin Kaepernick? Okay, Colin Kaepernick was coached by Jim Harbaugh, um, and they did make a Super Bowl, right,
Yeah.
with those 49ers. Uh, I think they have Colin Kaepernick and Justin Fields could be kind of similar. So, in essence, he could have, with that play under Jim Harbaugh, he could have made a Super Bowl at that time if Colin Kaepernick, if Colin Kaepernick was Justin Fields. I'm just throwing it out. I'm just thinking about this as you guys were talking.
Wait, who say that? Who could have made a Super Bowl?
Justin Fields in
Could have made a Super Bowl
in that
with
same
who?
era where Colin Kaepernick was the
Yeah,
quarterback.
yeah. The trade. It's boy. I don't
It's
know where you're
there.
getting this stuff from, but it's
You ready to
it's similar. Wait, Lings, you pulling this out of? I don't know where you pulling this from, but no. Yes, there are definitely similarities in their skill sets between Justin Fields and Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
And I think if Colin Kaepernick was in that 49er system with Jim Harbaugh as the head coach, you would have a similar result.
Yeah, yeah, I got
Yeah,
you. I got you.
yeah. Hey, with them losing the Super Bowl to the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, yes, yeah,
Yeah, I got you. I got you. I got you.
mm,
Yeah, I was just throwing something out there. But I
yeah.
know. It's a totally different system with
No, no, but
man.
that's a good
Yeah,
one. Like, because to Doc's point, if he does end up with, with Baltimore, if he ends up with Andy Reid, um, he would be a much better quarterback. Jim
yeah,
Harbaugh came a little bit later, but
yeah,
if he, let's say, instead of going to the Jets, he goes to the Chargers, right?
yeah.
Then that, I mean, who's the backup quarterback for the Chargers now?
Who is the backup quarterback?
I'll tell you, Trey Lance,
Trey Lance. Yeah,
right? Trey Lance is
yeah,
the backup now. So yeah,
yeah.
like those would be the spot
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
Justin
Mm-hmm.
Fields.
Wait,
Makes sense. Makes sense.
the only other coach that could use Justin Fields, though he's not coaching in the NFL anymore, would have been Bill Belichick. Belichick would have figured out how to use him, right?
Mm.
As a H back,
Belichick would
as a
figure out how to use him.
he'd be a utility guy, right? Yeah. What was the receiver's name that he utilized as a basically like as a H back slash running back? Um,
Oh shoot. Yes, I
he
know
ended
who
up
you're
go
talking about.
yeah, he ended up going to the Falcons for a
Oh,
while too.
not Cordell. Talk about Cordell Patterson.
Patterson, that's
Yeah.
him. Cordell Patterson, yeah.
No, because he was with the Vikings, and the
Right.
Vikings
Yep.
could not
Yep.
figure out how to
Couldn't
use
use
him.
him.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Bill Belichick was like, "Look, you will put you in the backfield. We will turn around and hand you the ball and let you get 6 yards a pop."
Yep. This big old number 80 something in the backfield taking handoffs. I'm like, what's
That's
going
Bill
on?
Belichick,
But
man.
it was effective. It was
He
it was
Yeah.
very
he'd
effective.
have quarterback rollouts. He'd have quarterback keepers, quarterback sweeps. He'd find ways to use Justin
Yeah.
Fields' athleticism, but he wouldn't have
Yeah.
him dropping back 40 times a game trying to throw.
No.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
he,
Yeah,
if,
man. Well,
if you had to go old school Pop Warner football, single wing and double wing, you best believe he'd be winning games with Justin Fields. So, yeah.
yeah. Hey, well, hey, look, I figured I'd throw a couple of those out at y'all, see what
That was a good one.
see what scenarios are there. I'm interested to see what people gonna say in the comments. I'm really interested to see this based off of this discussion tonight. But yeah, man. I mean, hey, look, another good one. I like the takes, man. It was very informative. So
Keep those hypotheticals coming.
I got a lot more for you. I got a lot more.
Keep them coming.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, man.
All
All
right.
right.
All right.